everyone, and welcome to the Human Design Podcast with me, your host, Emma Dunwoody. I'm a qualified master coach and human behaviour specialist, as well as being a qualified human design coach. And I work with clients every single day to answer the big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And what is my purpose? I also assist them to transition from the person they think they should be to the person they really are on the inside. I teach people how to actually live their design instead of just knowing it. And if this is something that you want to do too, well, stay tuned or reach out for private coaching or Human Design Unpacks, where I show you exactly how to live your design. Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Human Design Podcast. Now it's time for the transits again, and I know how much you guys love it. But to make it even better, our incredible sponsor, the beautiful Liz Zamorsky, is back sponsoring our program. And you know what? She's got something really special for all of us. So welcome, Liz.
Thank you, Emma. Hi, everyone.
I'm super excited because you're going to do a card pull for this month to go with the transits, aren't you?
Yes. And
Awesome.
It's a good one.
Do it. Fire away.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you just said fire away because 6 cards wanted to come out and 3 of them, everyone, 3 of them are fire cards. It's our favorite wands from the tarot. And this is inspiration, passion, getting that fire lit under you. If you're in the Southern hemisphere, you're about to go into spring and it's going to feel so good. And if you're in the Northern hemisphere, this is fall time. This is where we're really reflecting on what's happened during this bright time of our year. And we're moving into that cozier hermit area. So this is a perfect time to be ignited, to really recalibrate to what it is you want to be doing in the world, what your messaging is, and how you want to be showing up. So we kick off with the Queen of Wands and the Hierophant. And these are really juicy female and male energy where it's saying, what lights you up? How do you get to step into being more of the authority in your own life? How do you throw away the rule book? This is your messaging, Emma, too.
Oh my God, I love it.
You throw away the rule book and really step into something that comes straight from your heart, straight from your inner body that says, yes, this is what I want to be doing in the world. This is who I am. We got the 10 of Swords and Justice saying that we are moving past the old mindset. You've been there, done that, gotten the t-shirt. You're moving forward into a more balanced version of you, getting to integrate your light and your shadow and saying, this is the work I need to do. This is where I need to dig in. And then here's how I get to emerge as more of my authentic voice without listening to that kind of chatter in your head saying, oh, you can't do it, can ya? You're going to step forward into something that feels so balanced and so good. So all that fire around you has something to anchor to. The last 2 cards, we have the Page of Wands and the 8 of Wands. Do you hear all this wands energy?
Oh my God,
that
I
is
love
that
it.
ignition. Yeah, that fire. And when we look at the Page of Wands and the 8 of Wands, this is time to say off with the old, in with the new. Really stepping into something that makes you feel alive. If you do ecstatic dance, if you move your body in any way, this is that call to say, get down into your body, into your muscles, into your nervous system, and let it show you, let it open you up to more possibilities, because it can't just happen in your head anymore. It has to happen in your full experience. And that 8 of Wands, baby, that is one of the fastest energies in the deck. So it's saying when you get focused on what it is that your body and your soul wants from you, there's no stopping you. It's full steam ahead. That focus is going to drive things forward. So just when you think that there's going to be this kind of, okay, like we're packing things up for the winter, or okay, we're packing up the winter and moving into the spring. No, baby, no. It is time to be ignited. It's time to move forward. And the universe has your back and your front. You're being led and you're being pushed a little bit to really step into, again, who it is you want to be, what your messaging is, how you want to show up in the world. Find your mentors, find your group, find your community, and then let yourself fly, because now is the time.
Oh my God, that is so brilliant. And it's so funny. Like in the episode that's coming up, peeps, you'll hear Jenni and I talk about how we can feel this big expansion coming for September. So there it is. You heard it here. So if you loved what you heard, and let's be honest, you've heard me banging on about how awesome Liz is for the longest time. you can work with her in a couple of different ways. And there's something very exciting happening very, very soon. Like, you can book a reading if you want to, but you can also sign up for the Intro to Tarot course that's starting on September 11. It's a month-long expansion of your intuitive gifts by working with the tarot. This is a course designed for beginners and those wanting to be able to give intuitive readings with the tarot for themselves and for others. Liz is running 5 weekly live calls that include instruction and exercises, a Facebook group for daily practice and feedback, and a partner reading opportunity. There's also going to be time zones, peeps, so that if you're in the US or if you're in Australia or if you're in Europe, there's going to be 2 calls, so you'll be able to access it wherever you are in the world. If you've been looking to get clarity in your life and feel confident in receiving your intuitive messages, this is the expressway to get there. If you want to enroll, we're going to include the link in the show notes, but you can also head over to Liz's website and you will be able to join there. But please do not hesitate, because the numbers are limited. So if you want to get on it, get on it. And let's be honest, I'm really seriously considering, not that I need more on my plate right now, but oh my God, I would love to do that. So thank you so much, Liz, and to all of you who are just about to join the amazing event of the Intro to Tarot with Liz. Enjoy the ride, people. It's going to be awesome. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the Transits podcast. Hey, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. Today, of course, it is the Transits episode with the amazing Jenni Crowther. Welcome, Jenni.
Hi, Emma. Hi, Transits team.
Super excited to head into September. We are going to obviously review a bit of August. I'm feeling like I'm really curious to sort of touch base with you and feel into how was your month compared to the month before, because it sucked a little by the sound of things. And just really talk about, I know for me, August has been really great. And September feels like it's going to be even better. It all feels really good. I am in, the Southern Hemisphere, so we're just about to kick into spring, which is always a freaking exciting time for me. So, let's jump into it. You're going to review August first. Where are we going to go, beautiful?
I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of August, which does actually seem like quite a long time ago.
Yeah,
when we had the conjunction with Uranus, the North Node, and Mars in Gate 2. And for me, for my family, sport is huge. My dad basically only does sport. He's a splenic projector with one channel, 4816, which has been dedicated to sport his entire life. He's also 2-4 profile. So he's just this natural sportsman who only ever watches sport, reads about sport, plays sport, and that's his life. So sport is on the TV a lot in our house. And then we had the World Championships, Athletic Championships, the Commonwealth Games, we had the European Championships, we had the Women's World Cup on the evening of, Women's European Football Soccer Cup on that evening, when Uranus and North Node and Mars were conjunct in Gate 2. England won the Women's Soccer European Championships at Wembley with the biggest crowd, so the biggest attendance for any European World Cup, male or female.
Wow, I just got goosebumps. That's so good.
It's like the speed of the turnaround from oh my God, women's soccer is awful to oh my God, women's soccer is the best thing and England just won the Euros.
Yeah,
it was like a 2-month turnaround in terms of the attitude.
Yeah, it's the world we live in.
It's just this flip, this Gate 2 flip. Like all of a sudden, it's like the feminine just went whoosh.
Yeah.
Wow. All the coverage of all of the athletics events that I mentioned was anchored by female anchors, like all the way through. There was,
so
almost
good.
no male presence. Which, I'm all for like a balance and equality, but the point for me, visually and representationally, looking at what was happening in a predominantly male-dominated arena like sport, the feminine just went, hi.
Yeah.
Isn't this better?
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it.
That, so the conjunction, as far as I understand it in terms of what it does, it's like these big conjunctions like sound a gong.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's just for that one moment. It's like the sound echoes. It continues on and it creates this wave, this pulse.
Yeah, I love that.
So this yin-ness, this archetype of the feminine, this archetype of representation and a greater sense of diversity and equality, all of that, the earth itself, it was so present in August. Like everywhere I looked and everything that I felt in my body was this, this sense of...
Well, it's a feminine
rising
revolution, isn't it? Like if you just simplify it, the 2 in Uranus, like feminine revolution, bring that shit on, I say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if that can happen in sport, I don't think it's going to be long before it happens in politics and in business.
Yeah.
I think it's hot on the heels.
Yeah. It's funny, just
interesting.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually just tripped across a new podcast this week, and it's actually Meghan Markle's new podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And it's only the first episode. I literally checked the podcast this morning to see if there was another one out yet, and there isn't. But she had Serena Williams on as her first guest. And like just listening to this, and of course, me being me, I've Googled both of, or at least genetic matrixed both of their charts as they're talking so that I can sort of see them. And, I think that Meghan Markle, again, like she has this incredible normalness and this massive expansion. And as these 2 women are having this conversation on a podcast that isn't, for the want of a better word, policed by anyone, to hear these incredibly powerful women and their real experiences of their lives, like there's no more secrets. The walls are coming down, like things that people didn't want shared, whether it was the hierarchy of the tennis world or the royal family, like too late. No one can control these incredible women. So I feel like you're right. This has been definitely a theme, and bring it on, I say.
And also on a personal level, like because it's the receptive and it's double yin hexagram, as you well know, I've had to really learn to receive this month. It's been, and anytime we have to learn to receive, all the parts of us that don't feel worthy of receiving rise and need to be felt. So that's been like on a personal note, that's kind of been a theme for me, is this real assessment of my own worthiness. And I will talk about this at the end of the podcast in relation to Chiron, because Chiron's has been in and out of 51 and 21, which are ego, like heart center gates, which are all about worth and value and valuing yourself and feeling worthy. So that's been another kind of big theme for me in terms of the receptivity of gate 2.
I love it.
In terms of like the nuances, the minutiae of August, in the middle of August when Sun was in gate 4, I was really present and aware of the doubting going on in me and in conversations with my friends. Like just loads of people who are sort of my age, mid-40s, just like, is it okay to still have no idea what I'm doing? Like, is it okay to still have like zero clue about what I'm doing with my life, my future, just all this like mental doubting. I love that. About
I'm just going to answer that simple answer, yes. Obviously you don't need my yes, but yes.
Yes. Yeah, and that was exactly it. But there was a real like rise. I'm looking at the captions that people are putting on their Insta posts or the WhatsApp messages that my friends are sending me. Just like this real moment of like, wait, I don't know what I'm doing. Hang on a minute, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, yeah, it's okay. Nobody does. Carry on. Yeah.
And I love what you said, because I think that what's really interesting, and I feel like this is a conversation I've been having a lot with a lot of clients recently, is it's like it feels like you don't know what you're doing, but actually you do. It's that you're just getting more comfortable with the uncertainty, with the mind not knowing. And that, I know for me, that has been so incredibly powerful. I mean, I have the gate 40 and, we've just closed doors on Mastermind 2.0. So, and I've been, playing with the golden path, the gene keys for a while now. And this gate 40 of mine's in my evolution, which is my my personality earth. And it's this divine will, and it's like that total surrender to like where yep, I'm here to work. I love the work that I do, but it's also about just surrendering to where I'm being taken. And I feel like that's where a lot of people at the moment are going through this challenge, because they feel like they don't know what they're doing, in inverted commas, but it's that their mind doesn't know, because they have got to a place where they're surrendered. So they're following the heart, the soul, the inspiration, the intuition. And that doesn't come with formal clarity. It just comes with that kind of like, well, it feels like I'm going in the right direction. So, yeah.
And I don't actually want to underplay it. I mean, I was being kind of flippant, but it's pretty scary when it happens. It's very destabilizing when the mind starts revving up, doubting.
Yeah.
It actually doesn't feel good. So if anyone needs a technique, I just picked up my favorite book and reread it for those 6 days, so that I had something else which is Cloud Atlas, in case anyone is interested, by David Mitchell. I just reread Cloud Atlas because I was like, well, that's going to take me about 6 days. So I'll just lose myself in the world of another, so I don't have to listen to this. What am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah. And you know what's beautiful about that? Like, if we just take that back to behavioral code, like what you're feeling is uncertainty, because the mind has, it's trying to create external control. You're going, I don't have any. So it goes into free fall. And then when you give it a book to read, you're literally giving it certainty. So it's a beautiful way to deal with the doubt or the uncertainty, because you give it something it knows, it's going to quiet the mind down and allow you just to put one foot in front of the other and be guided to where that next step is. I love it.
And that's why I find the transit so helpful, because I'm like, okay, sun's in the gate of doubt. It's only 6 days. Chill, it'll pass.
Love it. I love it.
And then my general feeling about like probably the last week or two of August was, it feels like we're about to go up a gear. It feels like there's the big reset is becoming much more widespread. People that I was like, oh, they're corporate for life, have just quit. Like, I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, you're okay, good. People that I thought that are unbelievably skeptical and cynical, they're like, oh yeah, I went to a cacao ceremony and sound bath the other day. I'm like, holy shit, what is happening?
Yeah.
So it's stepping up a gear. I feel like I think August and November, October and November are going to be a bit, it feels like I can, you know what, when you get that sense,
yep.
I feel like there's some big, heavy stuff in October, November, and I feel like August and September are this opportunity to really clear the decks and empty out and prepare ourselves for that. And I mean, literally clear the decks. Like, I've spent the last week emptying cupboards, boxes. The charity shop pile is massive. I've been clearing out my computer hard drive, my email, like everything. I'm just like, clear it out, empty. Clear as much space as I possibly can, so I feel light and I feel responsive, and I don't feel that heaviness that having a lot of stuff that you that's anchoring you to your past is. Like, I've just sent all my high-heeled shoes to the charity shop. I was like, realistically, my skeletal structure has changed. I don't actually think I could put high heels on again, ever.
Yeah, I've been there. It was a little bit heartbreaking. But anywho.
I know, they're so beautiful.
I know, right?
I just can't. I put them on and my knees go, no, lady, take these off.
Yeah, I hear you. I put them on and go, oh my God, you're stunning. And then just go, yeah, I want my trainers back, please.
Yeah. So practical simplicity in shoes. But this feeling, like this, particularly the new moon in Virgo, which was, 2 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
Like, talk about tidy up, clear out, get rid. So that's basically how my August been. Much better.
Good.
much better than the previous month. Thank you for asking. It was I feel like I'm back to my preferred version of life.
Nice. That's what you want. Yeah. That's what you want.
Yeah, I feel good.
I feel like August for us has been massive. Like,
oh yeah.
And really like it's starting over. Like, there's been a real sense of new energy. We definitely, have done that in a very practical ways. And we have a new puppy, little Daisy, a little border collie, brown border collie. She's joined the family. And just, I don't know whether it's because it's the mastermind or what it is. There's just this beautiful new era that I feel on all levels. My youngest son's had a bit of a challenge with a friend, but through the challenge, he's really discovered who he is, and he's got all this extra confidence, and, he, is speaking up for himself. It's all this really beautiful newness. And yeah, we have a lot of Leos in our life as well. So there's been a lot of that Leo energy that I feel like's rubbed off on me as well. And we hired a PR person that started last month. So some really exciting things are starting to take off. So I feel like we've been working towards this for a while, and now things are really manifesting and growing. And I'm taking my first official complete holiday as of next school holidays since I started my business. The first time I will not take one call. I will not have one session. I will not do anything. And then I'm doing it again at Christmas time. So, yeah, that's new. I know it sounds a bit, like that should have happened a while ago, but I love what I do, and I've always made excuses. And now I'm like, nah, I'm taking it to the next level. Holidays.
It's incredible, right? Like I was just reminiscing on the phone on the WhatsApp to Jenna and Jess last night about, being a child of the 90s where nobody had mobile phones. There was no internet. Like, nobody could get hold of you. When I was at university, I had a landline that I never paid the phone bill on, so it never worked. So my parents literally would go months pretty much without hearing from me.
Yeah.
And that feeling of being out in the world on your own, and that feeling of not being accessible to anyone who wanted to get hold of you was so wonderful. And I feel like, seeing as we're not dead yet and we're still around, just to remind everyone, do you remember people when we were actually uncontactable for weeks at a time?
Yeah, I love that.
Just,
that reminds me.
What?
I'm walking the Camino next year. You want to come?
Oh my God, yes, I kind of do.
Talking about non-contactable. I'm getting a crew of people together. We've got a crew that's starting to build, so we'll talk about it offline. But
let's talk about it. Yeah. I don't know if I can keep up with the man jam, but I could.
But it's not the point. Like, you don't need to keep up. And I'm slow. Like, I'm a slow walker.
Good. All right, let's talk offline.
Let's talk about that.
God. Did you hear me? I went.
I did.
I never make that sound.
I know. I saw the spleen response. It's that, remember one of the first things you ever told me is once your spleen makes a decision, you just have to go along with it. And I think I just saw the spleen go, uh-huh.
I know. And my mind is immediately going, oh, for fuck's sake. Now we've got to walk the Camino. What? Okay, let's talk.
Anyway, we'll talk about that another time. Yeah.
Good. So August, much better in conclusion.
Yes. Great month. I've really loved it. It's been great. Even, you know what else? Just quickly, and because I feel like some of the listeners have been invested in this as well. Had mum over for brunch the other day. Best conversation I've had with my mum for years. It felt so, I don't know, it felt really great. Like all the work that I've been doing to sort of heal that relationship and settle her into a new life and all of these things. It just, even that, I feel like, wow, we've gone to a new level. So it has been a really big month for me, because that's exciting, because she could be around for another decade, and I'd love to really love to be around her. That would be great.
I think that's such an important message, this hopefulness that those wounds can heal. Those relationship dynamics can change.
Yeah.
Like, I've been doing some work with the emotion code, and as you know, I've messaged you about it, and I can feel my relationship to my parents shifting again. Like, it's like I thought I couldn't heal this anymore, but apparently I can. I can keep there's deeper and deeper layers of me letting go of the resentments that I'm holding. Yeah. That they can heal, even I know a lot of people right now in my life who are in like real, almost about to go no contact with their parents. It's getting to such a big like crescendo of like, I can't take this anymore. And just like to let everyone know, that it can heal.
Yeah. And that was me a month ago. Yeah. That was me a month ago. And I do feel like, I often talk about that, exactly that crescendo. I love that you used that word, because oftentimes in my experience, like, just wait for the crescendo, because what comes after is miraculous. And I definitely feel that, which is so exciting. So exciting. I'm actually going to enjoy being with my mother. Yay!
How wonderful. And so interesting that we use this word crescendo when the sun moved into gate 40, which means the earth moved into gate 37 this morning, which is obviously the channel of community, which is one of your channels. Yeah. And it's the emotional crescendo, right? It's like the reset of the blowout everyone says what they need to say, and then the emotional landscape resets itself. And, and it's almost like that's also a metaphor for that process.
Yeah, 100%. I love it.
So let's move in. Let's actually talk about actual what's happening in September. So
let's do it.
I just mentioned that we're in this 4037. So when this transit podcast goes out, that will probably still be the case. Because we're over a year into this, the Sun-Earth process, where I go through each gate in detail, still is relevant from last time we did this. So the September episode of this podcast, which is episode 132, from 28 minutes onwards is where we talk about the Sun-Earth gates. So if anyone wants to get deeper layers, I don't want to repeat myself, I don't want to just trot out the same, I want to evolve this podcast and evolve the way that we talk about all of this stuff. So if anyone wants to go through in detail the Sun-Earth gates for September, go back to episode 132 and listen from 28 minutes onwards. All the information is still relevant. But I will summarise what's going to happen Sun-Earth wise, and then I'm going to bring in some more of the planets that we don't often get much time to talk about. So just a reminder for anyone who's new to the podcast, if you want to access some of the support documents, you can go to my website, which is linked in the show notes, and there's 2 Wheel of the Year documents, Wheel of the Year 1 and 2, which will help to visualise what I'm talking about in terms of the way that the planets move. So feel free to go pause the podcast, go get that. So in a nutshell, Sun-Earth activations, we start the month with the Sun. Once we get out of this 4037 transit, Sun goes into a head gate and then an Ajna gate in the abstract sensing circuit. So 64, gate 64 from the 4th of September into gate 47 from the 10th of September. So either end of that channel. So like I was saying about gate 4, with that mental impulse to figure stuff out for our future direction, this doubting ourselves, because this is abstract sensing circuitry, instead of where am I going, it's more likely what happened to me? Why did that happen? What does it mean that that happened? This sense of confusion about the meaning around our past events, maybe also correlated with what we've just been talking about parental healing and healing those past the events, our meaning around past events, because Mercury's just been in those gates. So Mercury's moving slightly ahead of the Sun at the moment. Mercury was in gates 64 and 47 from the 11th to the 19th of August. So it's almost like that process has already started, and it's going to get more attention, as in celestially, it's going to get more attention from the Sun between the 4th and the 16th of September. So what we were just saying about healing this old stuff, this childhood stuff, it's likely that that's coming up. And I just want to highlight, if anyone is listening to this and is also in HDX, there is a module in Experiment 9 called Defining Moments, which I highly recommend for working with this energy. If people are feeling this, I need to dig into this a bit and heal this, or find a way to get more access to this information about what's coming up for me. I think that's a really useful module. I mean, there may be others that I can't bring to mind.
I think that's really, really powerful. So Defining Moments it's similar to what a lot of people call inner child work, but because it's based in NLP, there's just a few different language patterns and it's set up in a more technical way. And it's funny because my general feedback for my Defining Moments is people will say, I've done these so many times, but this time it worked. And I'm like, it's because it's structurally very different. It's not someone just, doing an inner child thing. It's set up so that it gets, a big bang at the end, big transformation. So it's a beautiful exercise. I do it still to this day. I'll go through those processes and I use it with my private clients all the time. I love it.
Yeah, same here. I use it a lot and it never fails. And everyone's always like, wide-eyed, like, where did that come from?
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
I had, like, this memory is brand new to me.
Yeah.
So,
super powerful.
So that if someone, because this is like a double process, it's like 2 full Sun activations of this energy. And if you don't know what to do with it and you're in HDX, go find Defining Moments in Experiment 9. And then we get the last of the solar plexus gates, gate 6, which is the only solar plexus gate that the sun doesn't go through in February and March. So February, March, the sun goes through every SP gate except this one. Mercury's also going to be in gate 6 as part of its retrograde. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute because that's like the big deal for this month. And then 21st to the 26th of September, we go through the G center pair from the cross of the vessel of love, which coincides with the equinox, spring or autumn, depending on which hemisphere you're in. Sun in gate 46, Earth in gate 25. So the theme that this equinox is always bringing up for me is the cycles of life, right? The 46 and the 25, these love of the body, love of universal love, like this feeling of being able to love ourselves in form, being able to love all form, and really surrendering into the cycles of that, which I think the equinox brings. So like, I don't know, if you're a menstruating body, do you force it to work when it needs to rest? Or if you're in a menopausal body, do you force it to behave in a way that's not supportive of its process? Or like whatever cycle you're in, life-wise, are you honouring the needs of that cycle? So I think the equinox it's 21st of September, that process is going to be a reminder about honouring yourself and your cycles, whatever that means for you. I love that.
You know, it's really interesting. I just pulled some cards for the month and I basically got, that was one of the themes, like, become aware of where you are, and like where I am is in a very busy time. And like the next card that I got was water, which is all about like allowing yourself to feel whatever you feel as you go through this process. And it's interesting because it was only in that moment that I sort of realized that in many times, you know, and this is the first time I've really done it. Like I've really set myself up because I know I'm going to be really busy. I've chosen to be really busy at this time. You know, I've set everything up. My entire life is set up to be able to support this. And I think that that's one of the things we think about the seasons. We're like, oh, well, if we're in winter and nothing's really happening, it's okay, let ourselves off the hook. But when things are good, we also need to set ourselves up as well. So, yeah, that just sort of came in. I think it's important for us to understand that it is we have to, wherever we're at, we need to support ourselves. So even if it's really great and we don't feel like we need inverted commas support, we do. Like how else can we sort of look after ourselves going through that process?
And then at the end of the month, the spleen process is kicking off. So the sun will move into gate 18 at the end of September and then on through every gate in the spleen from all the way through to early November. Spleen is physical health. So that, you know, we'll talk about that more next month, but that's the process that's coming.
That's so cool. I feel like we're lucky almost, because I feel like that whole spleen experience is a very spring experience. Like that feels really in tune. Oh, I suppose it's also autumn, isn't it? Because it's like that, that recalibration before you have that winter. So yeah, no, I like it. It works. According to me, it's just a survey of one. It works for both hemispheres.
Yeah, I think so. I really love this. I love that we're on opposite sides of the planet because I feel like it gives so much balance to my thinking process. Like this reminder that there's like a whole other load of people over there experiencing the balance of what we're going through. We're in spring, you're in autumn, we're in summer, you're in winter, vice versa.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so reminder, go back and listen to the September episode if you want more on those gates. But because of the way that Mercury is moving, some of them we're about to cover. Mercury retrograde is the theme really for September. Mercury is already in its pre-retrograde shadow as we're recording this. So what that means is its movement through the sky is apparently slowing down from where we're observing it here on Earth. Mercury usually moves through 3 gates. Takes 3 days to go through a gate. When it's in pre-retrograde shadow, it's slowing down. Let me have a quick look to my left. It's taking about a week and a half to get through a gate at the moment in its pre-retrograde shadow, and then it slows, it goes retrograde, which means it looks like it's going backwards from where we're looking at it, through gates that it's just been through, and then it'll go direct and go back through those gates. So it basically gets 3 passes on the gate. One pass direct, one pass retrograde, one pass direct again. Mercury, reminder, is the messenger, planet of communication, news, broadcasting, transmission, spreading information, technology, among other things. And so at the time that we're recording, it's slowing down in gate 46, about to enter gate 18 on the 30th of August. The Sun and Mercury will be conjunct in 46 on the 22nd, 23rd of September, while Mercury is still retrograde. So that's a key date, really, this conjunction with the Sun in 46. So for those who maybe haven't read some of the deeper teachings on human design, I want to talk about Mercury and why, according to human design, it's such a profound messenger. And it has a very specific role to play in the programming of our personality consciousness crystals, according to these like mystical teachings that Ra delivered. So our personality crystal, which sits just above the head center, is being programmed by the neutrino stream. Specifically, the stream that's coming out of the Sun is being filtered by essentially Mercury. It's not actually Mercury, it's this thing called the camel, but we won't go into that. But the camel tracks Mercury exactly, and it filters the neutrino stream coming out of the Sun, which it specifically makes us able to act as humans rather than animals. It makes us very aware and conscious of our actions. It gives us this ability to transcend our instincts with our reasoning. So it's an important body to pay attention to. It's a big deal, right, in terms of our programming. I'd love to track it all the time, but it goes so quickly that, we'd have to cover so many gates. But when it's retrograde, we can really start to see its influence because it's moving more slowly and it's going through just a handful of gates. So I've spoken before on this podcast in January about how gate 19, Mercury's retrograde in gate 19, really impacted me. Like I was just so needy. Like this profound longing and this neediness that I had to sit with for like 3 weeks in January. Like my whole January was just like, oh my God, I want a hug. So like I really feel Mercury retrograde. In May, it was retrograde in gate 20, and you might remember I had that weird throat thing every night, like the most profound sore throat, and I got loads of feedback from other people saying, yeah, my throat is doing weird ass stuff. So interesting to see what happens through this retrograde, which is in gates 18, 46 and 6. And I'll give the specific dates for that in a minute. I want to remind everyone about the themes of these gates. So gate 18 is the gate of correction. It is the energy to see the flaws or to see what could be improved. So we might be looking around as aspects of our reality like, well, this bit over here, this used to really work, but like now it's a mess. So it's this awareness of the natural decay, I guess, that's inherent in life. Like something that was great at one point may no longer be great. It's breaking down and it needs innovating. It's like what we were saying, I think just before we hit record, about you can't keep doing the same. Like you've got to innovate. You've got to keep improving. You've got to keep fresh and keep moving and just, it's got to keep improving. That's part of the deal, being human. We don't stagnate. We just got to keep staying fresh.
We're either growing and green or we're dead and dying. Like that's really the only options we've got.
Yeah. So what we're looking for in this part of the retrograde, and again, I'll give the dates in a minute, is stagnation and complacency. Where have we got stuck? Where do we feel like a murky pool of water? Where are we not like this fresh, clear stream of life? And start to... it will be obvious to us. Mercury's going to be like, you see that? Couldn't that be better? Yeah. Gate 46 is the gate of determination or pushing upward. Like I mentioned about because this is when the sun, the solstice is happening. It's the energy of the love of the body. And it's also the ability to persevere. So it's, I think, asking us to reflect on the actions we are engaged in with the body and see if those actions are still in line with our intentions. I think we might also look back to our journaling in July when the sun was in gate 53, this gate of new beginnings and this planting, which is part of the same circuit. This, the seeds that we planted in July in relation to the body, if there were any, are we still persevering with them? Are we still pushing upward? Are we trusting that even if we can't see the results yet, if we just keep on keeping on, it will bear fruit? Like in the way that one generation plants trees and the next generation enjoys the shade, it's like just this, it's this energy to keep being patient, being sincere, being intentional, keep doing those little things and keep pushing upward.
Yeah. I think I also want to add as well, like the two of them, the gate 18 and the 46 is also, to me, is like the new habit, you know, like the gate 18 is probably going to show you a place in your life where you need to stop doing something and start doing something else. And that 46 kind of says to me is like, are you keeping the promise to yourself? Are you staying on track? Because change is really difficult in the middle, you know, it really is. So I think there's also part of that, like checking in, am I staying true to this correction, this upgrade that I've promised myself?
Because we get all that, like that pulse of root energy in the beginning that gives us this enthusiasm to do it. And then if we're not immediately reaping the benefits or seeing the results, we can be like, oh, what's the point? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it does work. Just keep going.
Yeah. And that's the human brain. Like the human brain, you know, if we could change habits really simply, then everyone would be doing it all the time. It's the thing that we find the most challenging. We need to stick at it until we get past that point. So I feel like they work really well together.
Yeah. And then there's a period towards the end of September and into October where Mercury goes into gate 6, which is conflict or friction. It's the spark that ignites in our closest relationships. And like whether that's for attraction or repulsion. So there could be like this positive, negative magnetic chemistry. There's also going to be a conjunction here with gate 6 between Venus and Mercury on the 25th, 26th and 27th, also with the new moon passing through gate 6 on the 25th. So there's quite a lot going on in gate 6 at the like peak of the retrograde, if you like, just before Mercury stations direct. Mercury went through gate 6 in August 20th to the 22nd. So if you had that friction, that conflict, that spark with someone around those dates, 20th to the 22nd of August, it may be coming back up for a closer look with a chance to really deal with it. Like I was aware that some family members, someone came in and said, oh, there's a bit of bickering going on around their house, a bit of argy-bargy. They're kind of at each other's throats a bit. And I was like, okay, that's like, for me, like the heads up on what might be going on. To talk about, I feel like this is kind of the crux of the retrograde. The hexagram for 6 is heaven over water. So water always moves downwards towards the abyss and heaven is always moving upwards towards the sky, right? So they're going in different directions. And I think this is this perfect metaphor for what can happen in relationships. That which most attracts us, most repels us. 6 is part of the channel of mating. There's always this push-pull, yes, no, in, out, love you, hate you kind of dynamic with this energy. Because of this water going down, heaven going up. But if you think about what the water does to the sky, it reflects it. You know, the appearance of the colour of the sea is dependent on whether the sky is grey or blue. There's always this reflective relationship between it. So it's bringing up, of course, the other person is also reflecting part of us back to ourselves that we maybe haven't dealt with or are not wanting to look at. So just to be aware that even though it might feel like you're going in different directions, you may actually just be reflecting something to each other for processing. And I think, like, looking at it, if you have had this little heads up from the 20th to the 22nd where there was a bit of conflict and it might rear its head again, I think it's helpful in relationships to have an understanding, A, of the person's design, and B, of the best strategy for both of you when you feel triggered and in conflict. Because if you don't understand your strategy, when it happens, you're already too triggered and you end up in these kind of spirals. So, for example, a person with a non-defined solar plexus and single definition is probably more comfortable dealing with conflict alone. Like they probably process better independently. Whereas someone who's maybe emotionally defined, split definition, they might need to work through something with the other person. And so just having some awareness of how your close people like to process their stuff might help, just to have that kind of in the pocket. So that if this Mercury retrograde into gate 6 does bring something up, you've got like a little bit, you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm kind of prepared for this. I kind of know what the strategy is. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to let them have space, and then I'm going to ask for them to come back and help me process this together.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And it's that, fundamental principle of responding instead of reacting, when we can prepare ourselves beforehand, like you say. I feel this whole piece about understanding our loved one's design is incredibly powerful. But, then we do still have some things within our design that can easily trigger us. I know in our family we've got the 10-20 in one of my kids, so the verbal gunslinger, which can be a little bit of a cracker. We have the gate of the fighter in Justin. So there are some specific areas that can be triggered. And it's just, I know for me, like, especially with the gate 38, I just have a mantra like, oh, this is not my fight. And the moment I say it to myself, it's like the energy just dissipates from my body. So yeah, I love that. I think it's a great insight.
So I'll give the dates for anyone who's making notes in their diary or journal. Gate 18, Mercury will be in gate 18 from the 30th of August to the 19th of September. It will be in gate 46 from the 20th to the 24th. It will be in gate 6 from the 25th of September to the 8th of October, and then it'll go direct back through 46 and 18 in mid-October. So enjoy your retrograde, everyone.
Yeah, needless to say, you will be revisiting shit.
Yeah. A reminder that this is in the quarter of duality, purpose fulfilled through relationships. And so I think this retrograde is really activating our relationship to change. Like, are we willing to let go what isn't working? Our relationship to commitment. Are we able to keep doing things that bring us closer to our goal? And our relationship to intimacy, and there's this whole teaching around this channel 59.6 about intimacy. Like, you can only be intimate with others to the extent that you are intimate with yourselves. So you can only go there with them if you've gone there with yourself into, I don't know, whatever it is, shame, grief, pain, like whatever it is. To the extent that you're comfortable with that in you, you can be comfortable with that in them. To the extent that you're not comfortable with that in you, you won't be able to hold space for that with another.
Yeah.
So a quick note on the other personal planets. Venus is moving just slightly behind the sun at the moment, about 6 days or so, which is quite common for Venus. So it's like the sun brings this strong illumination to something, and then like Venus like mops up the fallout with love and beauty and creativity. So it's almost like the sun goes glaringly, look at this, and then Venus comes along and goes, oh yes, isn't it lovely? So Venus is like the start of the month in 29, 59 and 40, which is, as you can see, the sun just went into 40. So Venus is coming into 29, 59 and 40. So anyone who wants more on that, go back to the August podcast and listen to the second half of the Sun Earth so that you can figure out what Venus is doing. Then she moves into 64, 47 and 6, which we've just talked about. So Venus is going to be clearing up that process, particularly with the 64, 47, this making sense of what happened to me in the past, and gate 6, gate of conflict. So it's like Venus adds the balm towards the end of the month to the process that the Sun and Mercury just uncovered for us.
I just want to add as well, I reckon.
Yeah.
Sorry, just with that Venus as well, that
please.
She brings the creativity, because creativity and innovation is something that comes after challenge and conflict oftentimes, So I think that's also often where that, the rebirth piece comes, if things are dying off, as they're sort of brought to attention and almost burnt off by the sun, it's that the Venus can often bring the creativity, the innovation, the new seed or whatever it is.
Yeah, I had a Gestalt therapist a few years back, and because I don't identify myself as being a particularly creative person, and she said to me exactly about this, you're creative. You will come up with a solution to this. Like, expand a bit. So it's like, if, I don't know, all this friction has brought up this feeling of, I can't tolerate this anymore. There has to come a point where you go, okay, well, what's the solution? How are we going to fix this? Like,
Exactly.
I can't tolerate being in the same house as you all day, every day anymore. Okay, well, what's the solution? Okay, maybe we need to build a little outhouse in the garden that you can go to get space. Or maybe we need to put this, like, I don't know, like some physical, actual creative solution is always required after a blow up of, I can't do this anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, wonderful.
Love it.
Mars will be in gate 16 and then gate 35 for most of September. So it's Mars bringing action energy, but also bringing possibly some immaturity that needs to be worked through to the two collective throat gates. So if you're looking at a body graph, you'll see 16 and 35 on left and right of the throat coming up from the solar plexus and the spleen. So they're about experiencing on behalf of the collective. Either I have the experience with this, let me offer you a solution, or I have experienced this, let me tell you my story of my progress, how it changed me. So Mars is in those two for most of the month of September. So we might feel that that sense of dynamism around needing to share our stories or needing to share solutions. Then on the 23rd of September, Mars is going to move into gate 45, where it's entering its pre-retrograde shadow. There's a big Mars retrograde coming over the winter, so I'll talk about that more next month. So that's the personal planets. That's what's happening.
Amazing. Oh my God, I love
closer
it.
to home.
But needless to say, yeah, let's go. Mercury retrograde. Oh my God, can't even say it.
It's already happening in your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
So then we come to the outer planets, this looking towards sort of Jupiter and beyond, which are these planets that condition our culture and condition our society globally. And there are a couple of changes in theme because of the retrogrades that are happening. So most of the outer planets are retrograde. In fact, all of them are retrograde now. Hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, they're all retrograde at the moment. And this is normal, right? The outer planets do almost half a year in retrograde. So it's almost as normal for them to be retrograde as it is for them to be direct. Jupiter's been in gate 17 since the beginning of June, and it's currently retrograde in that gate in 17. I was having a conversation with a client a few weeks back, and she was remarking on like how opinionated everyone seems to be these days. She was like, bloody everyone's got an opinion on everything. And I'm like, do you know where Jupiter is right now? Happens to be in the gate of opinions. And as you've mentioned in the past, like the exalted expression of this is the ability to hold possibility for other opinions than your own, and this awareness of the value in other people's opinions. So Jupiter's been retrograding over there, helping us to make peace with that, make peace with other people's opinions.
Yeah. It's so funny. I got a question today on my Facebook Live in my free Facebook group on exactly the gate 17. And, you know, one of the things to understand is that in its shadow state, it's fixed to your own opinion, you know, a closed-minded, below the line, victim mentality, you know. So anyone who's really attached to their opinion, they're actually in that shadow state. And the higher we go is the more open we become. You know, the journey is that we can hold our own opinion, but we're not offended if people don't agree with us. It's just our opinion. And then that highest expression is, you know, I don't have any opinion. I'm just curious to know what everyone else's is. And you can really hold space for all of it. And I totally agree. I do think that we live in a really opinionated time. And there is this potential that people might perceive that as a bad thing. From my point of view, as long as we're open-minded and we're moving with it, and as the information we take in changes our opinions, our opinion changes with it. The only time having an opinion or being, you know, overly opinionated is a bad thing is when we're attached, when we're stuck and we're like, no, nothing can change my mind. Well, that means that you're not actually fully experienced the gift of it. So that would be my invitation. You know, if we're going into a time or we're in a time where this is a big theme. Be freaking open-minded, like be willing to change your opinion on things. And if you're, or at least see other sides of it. I mean, I know there's things that I can't see myself changing my opinion on, but does that mean I don't learn about it? Not at all. In fact, it's the opposite. I'm constantly like, well, I need to make sure that this is, still my opinion. So, and I think it's the world we live in, it's a great thing. We need to be more open-minded. We need to be willing to be convinced or to be guided or to learn something or believe something that we don't think we can or could or do. So I think there's a lot of power in it. It's just when we're stuck to our opinion, that's when we're expressing the fear state.
Yeah, and I'm just going back. Jupiter's been in this gate since early June. It's about to move into gate 25, and it's going to be in there for quite a while. So on the 25th of September, its retrograde takes it back through 25, which is where it was in May. And I just couldn't love gate 25 more if I tried.
I was going to say, I did the whole face.
Oh, Jupiter in gate 25, how wonderful. Like, it's, for me, gate 25 is it's this gate of universal love, but like, I was listening to it was Glennon Doyle, actually. I think I was listening to her Hard Things podcast about universal love. Is it even possible? Is it even a thing? And it's always addressed in the context of human relationships. Like, can I love someone unconditionally? Is it possible even for a parent to love a child unconditionally? This debate goes on and on, right? But for me, that's like missing the whole point of of universal love. Like, from my perspective, everything is an expression of the love of the divine in the natural world when it's left alone. Like, why else would snowflakes be so uniquely exquisite? Why is it that you watch raindrops in a puddle for long enough and it becomes a symphony? Why is it that you watch the breeze through the grass and you become hypnotized? Like, sun refracting through clouds at sunset. It's the most breathtaking thing in the world. It's love. It's that, for me, is what universal love is. It's like, oh my God, you're amazing. This is amazing. Yeah. I can't get over how exquisite this is. Like, why else would it be so beautiful? It wasn't just actually composed of love.
I think I love what you just said, and I think it's really important. And one of the things I think that gets in our way of actually experiencing it is exactly what I think Glennon Doyle is doing, and over fucking thinking it. Like, one of the best examples or explanations that I heard was actually Dr. Zach Bush, where he's talking about, like, he's basically tried to understand unconditional love, universal love, oneness. And he has this concept, and it's beautiful, the interview that I heard, like, he's in tears as he's sharing it. He's like, it's not love, it's beauty. It's beauty. And for me, I'm like, it's all the same thing. It's nature. It's Mother Earth. It's Gaia. We're all part of that thing that is beauty or unconditional love. Or, he uses the example of a sunrise or a sunset, like in that moment, that is oneness, because no one looks at a sunset and goes, that's shit. Like, everyone watches it and they're in that love, that universal oneness, unconditional love. I think that that's actually what's really important. I know for me that I've created such a practice of being in that state of being in awe of nature. And I agree. I think that's where our oneness comes from, that unconditional love. Like, I love my kids unconditionally, for sure. Does that mean that sometimes does that mean I never love them conditionally? Of course not. But it doesn't matter what action that my kids take. I don't give a shit what they do. I'm still going to love them. Like that, there is totally unconditional love there, no matter what. But it's not to say that I don't experience them with conditional love at all.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that this is one of the things that we do, especially, well, I was going to say in the spiritual world, but everywhere, is we overcomplicate things, Like, let's just bring it back to, like you said, like the beauty, that experience of, I know I wake up every morning, and because it's getting close to spring, the birds are getting really loud. So 5:30, I'm literally woken up, and my alarm is actually a bird song. So it sounds like just birds chirping outside the window. But the birds are now chirping again, like after winter. So I can't tell if it's my alarm or the actual birds. It's really cool. But that's the connection we want to get back into. Like, we're all nature, we're all life. And that's where it comes from, you know?
Yeah. I remember watching a film like a decade or so ago. I don't know, maybe it was the Celestine Prophecy, or maybe it was some other film about water.
I love that book.
Like these,
oh my God,
these like classic spiritual films that were poorly made on a crappy budget, but they've got a really potent message. I can't remember which one it is, but there's this one where this woman is in the bath and she has this sudden awakening, and she sits with a, like, I guess it's like a eyeliner or a lip liner or something, and draws hearts all over her body, because she's just suddenly realized, oh my God, my whole body is this expression of love, and she falls madly in love with herself and her body, and she expresses it, and she's just, the whole body is just covered in these little love hearts that she's drawn all over herself.
I love that.
And I think to know that that's a possibility, that it's not about what we look like, it's not about how we express, but it's just about this falling into the love that is already present, is it's possible.
Yeah.
To know, like, even when I'm at my most dysmorphic, looking at myself with the most criticism, I still know that that's a possibility. I know that I am love, I am made of love, I am already beauty, as an expression of life. And I just forgot. I'm just smothered in some stuff and I can't remember, but I know it's there. And there's this, that tether, that it's almost like an umbilical cord that, like, I'm never separate from that possibility. Yeah. So Jupiter's in there for a while. It goes retrograde through it until end of November. It then goes direct all the way through December in 25. So we've got a long, abundant, beautiful background frequency, I think. With
I love that. And you know what it makes me think is just this question, or this more intention that I always think about with that, with the whole channel, is like, how can I step closer to spirit, you know, and away from ego, you know, that sort of, and the energy is kind of giving us a leg up, you know. And I know for me, the answer is always the same these days: surrender. You know, trust in the magic and the miracle of life. So what a beautiful backdrop for a while. I'll take it. Sign me up.
I have gate 51 hanging, so it gives me my favorite definition in the heart center is that channel being defined. So
I love that, because you oftentimes hear so many people like fret that they've got the channel, that they've got the gate, that, oh my God. And it's just not. I'm always saying to people, there is nothing to worry about. It's all about this journey from the material plane to spirit plane, you know, and it's just that opportunity to constantly step up, you know. It's not a punishment. It's not scary. No. It's not any of those things.
No, it's extraordinary. So lovely Jupiter doing some lovely things for us. Saturn is September is the last month of Saturn being retrograde in 49. Let me just check what it's doing after that. It will go retrograde into 13 in October, and then it will start to move direct. So this process that Saturn's been in 49 for quite some time, I think it's digging up the father wound. Just my observation of what I think it might be doing.
What were the dates? Can you just say that again?
So it's currently retrograde in 49. It has been since early July.
Okay.
And it will end its retrograde in 49 on October the 5th.
I just love that you said that about the father wound. I've been thinking so much about my dad recently, and my godfather and his best friend literally texted me. I haven't heard from him for ages, texted me on the weekend. So I feel like there's this lot of stuff because of a lot of the mum stuff, like stories untold, questions unanswered. And I felt this real loss, like I can't ask Dad because he's not here anymore. And then boom, Peter arrives on my phone. I'm like, oh my God, I can ask Pete, you know, because he grew, you know, my dad and him grew up. So he would have known, or he'll know all my answers. He'll have my answers that I can't get from my mum. So that's really resonant for me at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not plucking this out of any human design book. This is my feeling on what Saturn does in 49. This is like...
Well, it's resonant for me.
A very restrictive, boundaried energy, which is masculine energy. 49 is this principle in relationship energy. As we've mentioned before, it's the political right, according to part of the human design teaching. So I have found something that contradicts that. But anyway, for me, it feels very masculine, patriarchal. But all the things that come along with that type of energy, like career, work life, relationship to money, discipline, like all of that is masculine energy. And so our relationship to our father can also represent our relationship to all of those things. So, yeah.
Wow. Sorry, I just have to quickly jump in because that's also really resonant for me as well because, like I'm working with a wealth coach at the moment. I'm doing all these things that are things that usually would make me roll my eyes back in my head. But like, no, I want to get on top of this. I want to take not on top of it. I want to learn. I want to be able to talk about investing. I want to do my investing. I don't want to give my power away or give things away to other people to do. I want to do it. So that, again, that's really resonant for me, everything I'm going through, as much as I'm avoiding some of it like the plague. But that's just my fear. That's all good.
Yeah, it's interesting. It comes in phases for me. Like I used to be so on it with all the finances and feeling like I knew my investments really well. And I've become so unbelievably yin in the past, I don't know, decade. It's like I've just become this jellyfish, like no structure at all. Yeah. So yeah, I'm also feeling this need to like just get it a little bit more together. Yeah. So I think however your experience, because my understanding is your relationship to your father can be mapped onto your relationship to the masculine energy of things like money. Was your father available? Did your father give you love all the time, or did you have to work for it, or was it conditional or not? So, I think that is also kind of coming up.
Yeah,
and then, what is our old friend Pluto doing? I hear you all cry. When did we last speak about Pluto? It's been ages.
I don't know. I have
no
time. Idea. Yeah.
The answer, a long time. What is Pluto doing? So since mid-January, the reason we haven't spoken about it is because it's been doing the same thing since mid-January, as in it's been in gate 60. Bringing our limitations, personal limitations to the surface, and also imposing on us externally all kinds of limitations to see if we can accept them. I think, the whole thing with fuel prices, I don't know if it's happening in Australia, but it's certainly happening here. Can we accept the limitation of high fuel and energy prices, for example? Some people are like, okay, well, it is what it is. And some people are like, I'm not accepting that. I'm going to protest that. So big limitations, very, 60 is this foundation of historical way of doing things. 60 is the gate that says, no, it's always been like this, very conservative, let's not do anything different. 3 is the energy that pulses and mutates that and builds a new foundation off the old foundation. So Pluto has been digging around in gate 60 for a while, since mid-January. It's currently retrograde in that gate. But what's interesting to me, I was just saying to Emma before we hit record, that I've been doing a human design training with someone who has this gate as their personality sun, cross of laws, and it, for me, has been so unresonant. I don't even know if that's a word. It's just been like, there's this been inner voice in me experiencing all this tradition and patriarchy, and this is the way it's always been done, and these are the original teachings, and and all the dogma that goes around that. And I'm not saying that's not for everyone. Some people love that stuff, but for me it's been like, oh no, like we do not have time for this. We have to innovate much quicker than this. Like, we 100%. Can't sit around on this old order anymore. We it felt like dinosaur energy. Like, I'm like, no, come on, let's go, let's evolve. Like, snap fingers, let's go. So Pluto is finishing up its cycle. If you look at the wheel of the year, you will see gate 60 just sitting there right on the cusp of gate 41. When Pluto moves into 41, start codon, new order, whole end of the whole cycle. So we're right there at this cusp of like Pluto just bringing up all these limitations in 60. Like, do you just want to have a quick look at this? Like, see the limitations that are preventing this society from flourishing.
Yeah.
High energy prices are preventing us from flourishing.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fact that we don't have free access to energy, when we know it's available, we know the technology exists, we know that the dinosaur corporations are, not allowing that innovation. So for me, I'm just like, wow, it feels really intense if I focus on it. So I try not to focus on it too much, but it feels like, come on, people. Like,
but I think that that's the point, like we're at the crescendo, I know for me, it's really funny. I swear I live in a different dimension to so many people. I just do. And it's not because of anything I've done on the material plane. Sure. It's that, like you say, like there is a level of acceptance and non-acceptance, and it's really interesting because it's ever since 2020 for me. And I've always been that human. I think it's really interesting for me because I've got gate 60 in my personality Mars. So it's like, it's been a teacher for a long time. And as a kid, I was so dialed in my early 20s. I was so dialed in. I was so like stick to the rules, even though there's this freaking massive rebel. Like all of the people that I idolized, everyone I looked to were some version of bloody pink. Do you know what I mean? Like they weren't just outside the box. They were like breaking the box and shaking everybody else's bars. And I think that that's where we're at now, that as we're moving towards a new paradigm, like we're going to fundamentally individual energy. Do you know what I mean? Like this shit can't last. So there's so much of me that's just kind of like, well, I'm just going to, ride it out. I'm not going to let it limit me. I'm just going to pivot. I'm going to keep pivoting. I'm going to keep shifting and changing. Every time there seems to be a inverted commas limit, I'm just going to look at it in a different way. And I think that this is actually what's happening. It goes back to that piece that you said about the client that like everyone's opinionated. Good. Because when people don't have an opinion, they're apathetic and nothing's going to change from apathy. So being over opinionated and having inverted commas right or wrong opinions doesn't matter. The fact that you want to have an opinion matters. And I feel like that's where we're at. We have to have our own voice. We have to be willing to not just take it. Like we've lived in this era where and I'm across a planning, and one of the really big themes within me obviously is equality, is the balance of the feminine and the masculine. Like one of the things I've found I'm going to say odd or weird is this how the feminine has risen and women are like all about women. I'm like, no, but we have to balance it. It's not all women or all men. Like, are we not learning from the all men thing? Yeah. So there's this huge energy within me to balance the masculine and the feminine, yet we're just coming out of the cross of planning, like what happened there, that shadow expression, it was so out of balance. But inevitably, all of that is resetting. It's why we're experiencing what we're experiencing now, because it's going through. We've been in the shadow and we're coming through the gift. And yes, it's messy because we're also in this transitional time. But the more we focus on these gift expressions that are happening, and, one simple one, as I'm just touching on here, is this equality between men and women. I get we're not there yet, but it's shifting. And like you said earlier, things are shifting fast, like really fast right now. So when we have the opportunity to really going back to this limitation piece, as long as the limits are being put on us, as long as we're not going to victim state and going, oh, I can't believe this isn't happening. Oh my God, and just bitching about stuff we can't change. And we instead focus on what we can influence, change, pivot, move. This is how we're going to navigate. That's how we're going to mitigate all the challenge that perceived limitation puts on us. And I'm excited because I think I know that a lot of people that listen to this podcast are those people. They're not like, screw limitation. I don't really, you go for gold, but I'm going to choose something different, because we always do have different choices. And sometimes it's just an attitude choice. Like maybe that is all that we have. But choosing a different attitude is enough sometimes, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, rant over.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that I was using the word dinosaur a lot related to 60 because they're literally burning dinosaurs for our energy. And that's the limitation. That's the biggest limitation right now is our dependence on burning dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like this, I don't know what's happening elsewhere in the world. I'm kind of UK centric, but 2 days ago there was just this announcement of this massive price rise in people's energy bills. It's going to send so many people below the poverty line. So many people are not going to be able to eat or have to choose between food and warmth. It's like, no. Like, there is no acceptance of this limitation. Like, no way are we doing this as a society. No way are we not giving people basic warmth and food and shelter. Like, I'm not having it. Like, no is the answer to that limitation. So I think Pluto is bringing this up. What it's about to do in September, on the 5th of September, it's retrograding back into gate 61, which is where it's been for most of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, gate 61 at the other end of this channel, you know, 60 down in the root, 61 up in the head. It exposed, you know, it's bringing up the truth or lack of it to the surface. It's exposed so many falsehoods already. It's got so much energy around making us question what is true. All of this energy around who is telling the truth, what should I believe? It's Pluto's going back in and going, I wouldn't believe anyone but yourself if I were you.
Yeah.
I would rest so deeply on your own inner truth that whatever anyone else says, it's not disturbing to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you get pulled away from your center. It doesn't mean that you question yourself. Like, Pluto's just having another little dance back into 61 to be like, do you trust yourself yet? Are you like, is that your baseline, your own reality that's right in front of you? The people in your life, the own content of your own inner being. Is that true enough for you yet? And have you realized that that truth that is your inner truth is part of the whole? Like, that it's not about you and them. It's about your facet, if you like, of a diamond. You're just one tiny little
100%.
face. Everyone else is another facet of the diamond. It's I think bringing us closer to the experience, not just the idea, but the experience of understanding ourselves as interdependent, interconnected. You know, the wholeness. I feel like 61 going back to the true truth. This, I'm a filter for consciousness. Everyone else is a filter for consciousness. The experience that I have of the world out there, inverted commas, is filtered.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what I also love? Like, if you think about just using this example of, you know, everything that we've been through in 2020 and 2021, and now we're faced with these energy crisis. How is that not being subsidized after everything else that was subsidized, you know, like, and that goes back to the 61, right? The truth, you know, like, yes, it can be done because we've seen it when it benefited certain people, then the rest of the world could be financially subsidized and taken care of. Like, yes, it wasn't perfect. And yes, there's a lot of recovery and all of those sort of things, but there were things that we perceived couldn't happen, but they did. So I love that. I think that that's really important to, and it's that goes back to that principle. Like, again, I've got the gate 39, so I feel like it's kind of in there, but just question everything, freaking everything. Because I love what you said about the truth piece. Like, absolutely, the only truth you can trust is your own, you know, and the reason why that is because there is no truth, universal truth. It just doesn't exist. So it's that place of, well, if I can trust myself and my truth in this moment, and that's going to shift and change, like opinions and blah, 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 blah. But it's that ability to trust in the unknown, trust in, let's bring it back to the simplicities, our strategies and authority. That's why we have them. That's why we've learnt this. Like, who cares about everything else? It's the most profound thing we have.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can trust strategy and authority, then we have access to truth.
Yeah, overnight, I didn't sleep very well last night. And I had this moment where I was just like, I'm the only one doing me. Like, I'm the only one of me here. Why would anyone else think they had any idea what I was doing or how to do me? Why would I think that anyone else would know how to do this? I'm doing this. Who's doing Jenni Crowther right now? Me. I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm doing, how I'm doing it, what I'm experiencing, there's not a scrap of it that is wrong or bad. Nope. Or I'm not like you always say, you can't fuck this up. I can't. How could I? I'm the only one doing it.
Yep.
How could anyone possibly say you're doing it wrong? I'm doing Jenni Crowther wrong. No, I'm not.
Exactly.
You're like, I'm right here.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what Pluto is bringing a reminder of, this, like, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And if I want to change this, I have to change this. I'm doing it.
Yep. That's it. At the end of the day, the power lies with you. All of us have that choice. That's what we're here to do, and that's to maintain our power and love, trust, and accept ourselves. And when we can do that, we will do the same for everybody else.
It's like I'm the one that's filtering.
100%. And we all do it. If I'm
perceiving this as a negative, it's because I'm running it through a negative filter. I'm the only one that can
100%.
take that filter off and change it.
100%.
So, also my rant over.
I love it because it's something I feel like every single person is experiencing. You know, and there's this perception that, you know, people who are, inverted commas, successful, they've somehow mitigated that, or they don't do it anymore. And it's just not true. It's just not true. Every single human doubts themselves or thinks, you know, looks elsewhere for wisdom. It's just that the more, in my definition of success, the more successful I am is the more I'm trusting that I'm enough, that what I'm doing is okay, that it doesn't matter that I'm messy, but bloody hell, I can talk off the cuff. And it's perfect, like you said. And that, for me, is how we know whether we're successful or not. Are we being authentic, which just means we just trust that version of ourselves. And even when that version of ourselves is really fucking imperfect, like you say, it's only the way that we see it. Because if we connect back to, you know, God, universe, source, like, she doesn't see it that way. She's like, whee, this is a great experience. We're having a blast, no matter what's happening. And the more that we can align to that, and I would say that's one of the biggest things, and I literally said it to Taylor today. We recorded one of our new sponsors thing, and I'm just like, one of the things we know for sure is I am in my genius when I literally just respond. And do you know how much my ego is like, you should plan, you've got to do this. No, there's no way you can do a TEDx talk because if you plan it all out, it'll lose all the life. Like, it's all bullshit stories, you know? And it's this part of us that we just have to learn to trust. The word I always use is messiness. I just have to trust my messiness, that I'm enough, that if I, you know, don't listen to my emotional authority, it's all still going to be okay. It will right itself. And not have to constantly look externally for validation and for whatever. For sure, go outside to learn, but don't ever, like you said, let anyone else tell you who you are or how human design should be through the filter of your design. Nuh-uh. It's you. You're the one who brings it to life. What's true for you matters. It's not the reader or the coach that's going to tell you who you are.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. And it's like, even that, like, we can put ourselves in any box. You know, I feel like I've spent a whole decade just looking around for a new box. You know, I was in the corporate box. I'm like, okay, I need a new box. Let me put myself in this yoga box or this Buddhist box or this human design box. I'm just like, oh my God, just get out of this box.
Yeah,
I feel like I want to burn the box.
Yeah, burn the box.
So, just stand in the middle of it. My box is burning.
Yeah, love it.
So I feel like Pluto's just coming around again into 61, being like, you done yet? You done? Looking for some other external truth? that's not yours. So, yeah. And then I did say I'd come back to this Chiron, finally Chiron, which I mentioned is currently retrograde in 51. It's going to move back into gate 21 on the 15th of September, but it's been doing this back and forth 51, 21 for a while now, a year or two. When did it go in? November last year? Something like that. So I want to talk about Chiron generally, because in astrological terms, Chiron is said to be the wounded healer.
Mm-hmm.
Its position in our chart being representative of our core wound. I actually think for everyone, the abandonment wound is a core wound. Like, I don't think anyone who has had a birth, which is all of us, is exempt from that feeling of being abandoned or
I can tick that box. That's a fucking few years worth of work, let me tell you.
Let's just all hold our hands up and say, yes, of course, we've all came from a woman. We were one and now we're two. So we have an abandonment wound.
Yeah.
So anyway, Chiron is this wounded healer. What I find most fascinating about Chiron in terms of its representation astrologically is that it's not old. Like, yeah, the Greek mythological figure of a centaur who was skilled in herbal medicine, that is old. That's ancient Greek. But the asteroid, which was subsequently named Chiron, was only discovered 2 weeks after I was born. Huh. So it was only discovered in November 1997. 1977. I'm not that young. 1977. So it's only since then that we've had this celestial body as a representation in the birth chart, which I find quite fascinating. Like, the fact that it got adopted so quickly as a major player.
It's like, so the thing that I then want to map back is like, so did healing, inverted commas, did that amplify from 77? Because that's pretty much around the time of psychedelics, like when, I mean, yes, Jungian psychology and all of that was really big, but I feel like, am I jumping ahead? Are you going to talk
about
this?
You are jumping
to
the same conclusion that I jumped to, but that's also good.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, yes, Emma, that's exactly what I did. I went straight there.
Yeah.
So let's just jump back to, say, for example, Uranus. So Uranus was discovered by Herschel in 1871. That marked, according to human design, the beginning of the Uranian life cycle, the beginning of Homo sapiens intransitus, the beginning of the nine-centered being, the advent of the projector. Yeah. So the discovery of a new celestial thingamabob, Chiron's not a planet, but thingamabob, that the astrological world deems important enough to incorporate into our understanding of ourselves is fascinating. So, how was it that it was named the healer? For me, it brings in, it like heralds in the era of holistic healing, an era where humanity gets the chance to heal its deepest wound. So Chiron's dilemma was that he was mortally wounded, but he was immortal. So he couldn't die. So he had to live with this wound, but he couldn't heal it. So and he tried. He like hid himself away and tried to heal the wound. Eventually, his ultimate healing was that he had to learn to live with it. And instead of like obsessively trying to heal it, he had to come out into the world and with his unhealed wound and focus on healing others. So for me, it offers that wisdom that healers don't need to be perfectly healed themselves 100%. In order to have a positive influence. Like at some point, we have to accept our human situation and go, do you know what? My wounding doesn't mean that I'm broken and useless. It's just the condition of being human.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what I have to add to that is like being line fives. Like some of the, line fives are superhuman when it comes to healing. Why? Because at some point they've had to pull their heads out of their own asses, stop being the victim and learn and heal on their journey. Like this is the thing about the line fives is we talk them up a lot, but they also have a really like natural victim state, a really poor me, I can't do it, it's all happening to me. And it's that moment that they take responsibility and they heal, that's when they become great healers and leaders. So it's exactly the same thing. I feel like Chiron must have been a freaking line 5. That's what I'm saying.
Where's yours? 17?
No, my Chiron is in 42 and 51.
Oh, 42. Yeah. Well, so you're getting your design Chiron return right now, and your personality one's around the corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 51 and 21, which is where it's been for the past year or so, heart center gates related to value and worth. So really, this is what we're being invited to heal right now as a collective, is if you look at the shadow of 51, this feeling that we need to compete with each other in order to be successful, value or worthy. We want to shock other people to show them how good we are at adapting to shock, and therefore how much better we are than them, she says.
I'm pretty sure I've been there.
Well, 51's like, I've got 3 activations of it. It's all over my chart.
I don't have it. I don't have it at all. And when I discovered that I don't have either of my Chiron gates activated, and when I discovered my Chirons, I was like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that competitive shadow is one aspect. Chiron's coming around and saying, guys, you don't need to compete with each other.
Yeah.
Like I just said, you do you, boo. You're all doing yourselves. There's no competition. How could you possibly compete? Even if you're an identical twin, there's no one to compete with.
Exactly.
Gate 21 in the shadow is like extreme control freakery and the perceived need that we need to control the choices of others in order to create this illusion of safety for ourselves. Again, no, you don't. You do not need to control the responses, actions, behavior of anybody else.
Nope, and you can't. So good luck with that.
And you can't. So stop trying, stop wasting your energy, forcing your own whatevers onto everyone else. So these wounds around feeling like we have to prove ourselves, especially in order to receive financial wealth, money, material whatevers, they're part of the healing, they're part of the collective healing that Chiron is inviting for us at the moment. I mean, we've kind of spoken about this outside of the podcast, where I've had to really look at my own sense of value and worth and what I believe I'm worth financially, and how I'm able to receive financial support from the world or not, and how that feels in my body. So I'm going to offer a few journal prompt questions for each of us based on what I've been doing. I'm going to send them to Justin. I know, who doesn't love a journal prompt? I'm going to send them to Justin to stick in the show notes.
Love it.
Because I think it's an interesting question for us as a society to consider these questions. Okay, am I worthy of receiving money/income or having my basic needs for food and shelter met if I don't have to work hard for it?
Yes.
So,
sorry.
Go ahead. No.
I'm just going to say yes.
Away.
The end.
Yes. So, for example, there are people in the world who receive benefits, right? They don't work hard and they receive support. So what if the government introduced a universal basic income for all citizens, i.e. it paid for all human beings who were born to have a basic standard of housing, food and medical care, i.e. everyone becomes a person on benefits? There's no division between those people who work for their money and those people who don't work for their money, putting work in these things, inverted commas. What would be the metric for measuring value and worth if that were the case? As a collective, let's consider, how would we measure value and worth if it wasn't based around how hard you worked and how much money you earned? What would then become valuable?
Well,
if everyone didn't need to work because they had a house and food and medical care.
I have an answer. Ooh, pick me.
Put your hand up then.
Okay. Pick me.
Yes, Emma.
Connection. I reckon connection would be our worth, and there's, how we connect with the other. I reckon that would become more of our worth. But ultimately, I reckon the actual answer is, and I don't know the actual answer, this is just me musing, is that whatever we perceived was worthy within us, that would be the value that others would see in us.
Yeah. So it's an interesting question to think about. If we all had our basic needs met, How would we as a society measure value and worth? What would be the new metric? Couple more questions.
I love that question. I feel like we need to have a whole fucking discussion on it. I love it.
Well, maybe
taking all my effort to keep my mouth shut.
I'm like, anyone listening to the podcast, feel free to like comment on my post or DM me or whatever, or Emma, just let us know. Like, what would be, I'm not on the Facebook group, but feel free to stick it in there. Let's just have a general poll. What would be measured as valuable if we were all, given a house and whatever we needed?
Happiness,
Second
joy,
question.
freedom. Oh my God.
I know, right? It becomes such an interesting question. Then, bringing it back to the real world that we actually live in right now, am I worthy of receiving gifts from others if I don't have to pay them back in some form?
Yes.
But how does that feel to receive without feeling like you need to pay back?
It used to be awful. And it is actually one of the fundamental, so this is actually one of the ways that a lot of marketing people get people to sign shit up, reciprocity. Like the human brain, the human psyche, if you get something for inverted commas free, you feel beholden to that other person. And I actually remember learning this really, really young because both my parents were in advertising. So I was always like, fuck that shit. And if people would go to give me something for free, I'd be like, do I want it? No thanks. And they'd be like, but it's free. And I'm like, but I don't want it because I don't want to. I don't want to owe you anything. So great journal
exactly
prompt.
That. And I'm also from an advertising background. I also learned the 10 basic ways you get human sheep to buy stuff, and so I'm also super cautious about receiving because I don't want to feel like I owe you, and I don't want you to think that I owe you because you gave me something. So exploring that, if we never have to pay anyone back at all, even with a thank you, like what would that even be like to receive and be like, yeah.
I love that though. I think that's beautiful. And can you think about it from the other person's point of view? Like to be able to give freely and not to need or want anything in return. Like I love that feeling, I think that's the ultimate,
Even a thank you. Like, let's consider a world where we don't even have to say thanks.
So I used to always need a thank you. I don't need a thank you anymore. Like this, and I'm not going to say always, because I'm not perfect. And if I'm triggered, I'm going to punch someone in the face. No, not really. But yeah, I love that because it's really interesting. Now my entire day is blurring together, but I was talking about this story. We were talking about the Pearl sequence. We were talking about how the particular line number of your Pearl sequence tells you how you're driven to have money, right? And my client was saying, if there's someone homeless on the street, I'm going to give my daughter money to go and give to that person. And I said, oh my God, are you kidding? I'm a line 3. So it's all about celebrating money. So I'm like, whenever I go to a big city and if I see someone who's homeless, I'm like, do you want a coffee? Do you want lunch? I'm going to go and get your stuff and, whatever, and I'm super I just get such joy out of celebrating that moment. However, to your point, there was one person when we were in Melbourne and I went to do this same thing and something in me went, you're not deserving. And literally a minute later, I was like, oh my God. And I went to go back and find him because I was like, wow, you triggered my ego. How rude of me to decide who's worthy and who's not. And I went back and I couldn't find him. And it was like this moment that I was like, oh, well, here you are thinking you're so awesome, giving from the heart. And I was giving from the heart, but there was ego wrapped up in that as well, having that moment shit, I just judged that person. Damn it. That's the opposite of what I'm trying to do here. So I love these journal prompts. I think they're really powerful.
Final one. Who or what am I comfortable receiving from? And who or what am I not comfortable receiving from? Or why not?
Oh my God, I love that. My simple question is, I'm completely comfortable receiving from people I know, like, and trust. I will not take fucking anything from someone I do not trust and I do not like. If I don't like you and I don't trust you, I don't care if you're giving me $10 million. You can keep your fucking money. I'll make my own. 100%. For me, it's a values thing. And it's, again, this is thing looking as we're looking at investments and what businesses to, to buy shares in and all this sort of stuff, I'm like, anything Bill Gates owns, it's a no. I don't care how much money it makes. I'm out. So yeah, that's a great question. I love it.
Yeah. So there you go. I just feel like we have to have a good think about this internally if we're going to evolve this gate 2-ness, this ability to receive. And I mean, gate 2, what is it pointing at? Gate 14 is the resources to get shit done. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to send those to Justin. We'll stick them in the show notes.
Love it.
And everyone can have a lot of fun playing with those questions for themselves.
God, I love it. I love it. You know what we could do? We could even do a podcast episode or I don't know, something where we just bring those questions and we get a group of us just to talk about them and have a discussion. We could even do it in HDX. That's something we could do in HDX as well. Oh, I just love it. Look at me, MG lit up.
Cool.
I want to do it everywhere. Let's do it.
Let's put it everywhere. Let's stick it on Instagram. Have some responses. Yeah, let's see what people are feeling around value and worth and receiving and all of this good stuff. Okay, so let's conclude. It's Mercury Retrograde coming up. Back up your data. Clear out, declutter, empty yourself out, cleanse yourself a little bit. We've almost got the spleen process coming up, so like start to think about making sure your physical form is well cared for, so that we can all be as light and responsive as possible going ahead. That's kind of the summary.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Well, thank you so much for being here, Jenni. This was fantastic, as always. It's so great to see you back in your energy, back in your Jenniness. It's beautiful to have you back. So thank you so much, beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on another Transits podcast. We absolutely love creating these for you, and we are so grateful for all the feedback that you give us, the support that you give us, and letting us know how much these podcasts serve you, because that's why we do them. So thank you so much, everyone out there who's listening, and I look forward to having you on the next podcast. Bye for now.
Thanks everyone for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast, or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.